So you guys can't see it, but right now, this part of the studio is a complete mess. I've been trying some new video setups, and my recent videos, I've been doing this kind of like live streaming rig where I'm processing all my videos in one take and using multiple camera angles, but also shifting the angles at once. Yada, yada, yada. There's a lot going on this side of the studio. So today, I wanted to talk about this side of the studio. Let's go check it out. This side of the studio has a ton of synthesizers and audio processors, as you guys can probably see behind me. We've got everything from MoogerFooger audio effect units up here. We've got polysynths, polydigital analog modeling synths, analog synths. And what I wanted to do today is kind of walk you through all the synthesizers that I have and kind of the story about how I got each of them, kind of how they're all near and dear to me. So we're gonna start literally from left to right up here, work our way down, talk about the audio units up top too, and eventually get to the really cool ones I have sitting over in this corner that are a little mysterious, but I'll show you. I'll take the black tarp off these guys, or case, not a tarp. That makes it sound really trashy. The black case is off these guys so you can see what these are. So let's start with the first one right here. We're gonna start off with the one and only Roland JP 8080. This is the 8080, not the 8000, because this is the rack mount version. And this was a cool synth in the 90s because it had all of the neat Roland big poly sounds into a digital modeling interface. The one thing that makes this so cool though, this guy, is of all the knobs. You have so much control over the sound itself. I use this guy on a couple of different tracks. Most recently, the Chelsey and the Noise song, Can't Shake This. In the intro, it's got this kind of really syrupy pad. And that's all done from this guy. And I really love that song. And I love the fact that I got to use this on here. The other cool thing about this guy, just a random little note, is it's got these little buttons here. And these buttons allow you to control the actual scale or the pitch of the synth. So you can see they've got all these white ones and black ones up here, and if you go into perform mode, you can actually adjust, or preview mode, I'm sorry. There we go. You can see that it looks like a scale. Let me get a little closer for that. You can see it's got some reds here, and these would be the black keys, right? So C, D, E, D sharp, or C sharp, D sharp, right there. I love this guy. I got this guy in 2014, and this was my first poly synth. This was my first like digital synth that actually had more controls on it than just your basics. My first two synthesizers were an M Audio Venom and an Akai, I think a Mini AK, one with a vocoder knob on it, and also a Yamaha DX7. I sold all those. I'm sad I sold the DX7, but I'll show you why in just a second, why I'm not too sad about it. And ultimately, I ended up getting this guy. I paid like $400 for this off of eBay. I did a couple shows with this guy as well back when I was opening for a band. Just with my little MIDI guitar, I'd play into this thing. It's got a lot of cool parameters. It's a lot of fun to play with, and I really do love it. We're gonna move on now next into this rack unit. Oh yeah, quick shout out to the rack itself. This is an old closet. I don't know if you guys could tell, but I'm in the bedroom of the house we moved into last year. And the shelf that you normally see in a closet to hold your shoes, I just build these network racks onto. These guys are pretty easy and pretty cheap, and you can ultimately just drill them into wood right here. I've got a lot of supports under the wood. You can see all the metal, all of the different metal supports I've got going under there. But overall, the point is to make this sturdy, but also allow me to build stuff directly into it. I had tried using some other, like, I think a Rab Audio makes some rack cases, and I tried to put some of those in here because they seem small enough, but they would just stick off the front and they look like they're always gonna fall. So not a big fan. So right here, we've got three MoogerFoogers. We've got the low pass filter, we've got the ring modulator, and we've got the 12-stage phaser. Now I bought these in 2018, the day Moog announced they were going to stop making them. I knew that they were going to be collector's items. All the MoogerFoogers that they stopped discontinued were all like the Midi Murph and the Delay M, all those different types of things they had made in the past. I knew that they were going to be worth a lot of money, so I immediately bought these guys because I couldn't afford the other ones. And to be honest with you, I'm glad I got these. And funny story about these, I ordered these through Guitar Center because they still had them in stock. Turns out they didn't have them in stock, and I was waiting literally a year for them to get them from Moog because I guess Moog had a bunch that were shipping out and it took some time. But I finally got them. Super happy I got them. And the reason why I like this setup too is I often go into the filter, into the ring modulator, into the 12-stage phaser. The phaser is really cool. I haven't actually used these on a track. Oh no, I take that back. I have used them on a track in the upcoming Cat Named Monkey album, which is my electronic music project. I'll leave a link down below. But these guys are great. They're awesome. I love the MoogerFoogers. They're also in this MoogerFooger enclosure that Moog makes. It just allows you to put 3 of these guys into a rack mount enclosure versus like having them on a desk. And I really like that. All right, so as much as I love these guys, I also love these guys. Speaking of Moog, this is the Moog Minitaur. And this guy has great, awesome bass sounds. I love it, I love it, I love it. But this actually isn't mine. I play in a band called Chelsey and the Noise, and this is actually Chelsey's. I'm borrowing it from her for now. But I do have it in the rack mount case, which is pretty cool. That's another thing Moog makes. They sometimes just make little rack mounts for a lot of their stuff, making it rack mountable. And I love rack mount, as you can tell. But yeah, the Minitaur is great. I really do love it. The filter's awesome. And I've been borrowing this from Chelsey since I think like 4 years. So thank you, Chelsey. I gotta give it back to you. Next up, we have the Yamaha TX81Z. This guy is just a little 1U rack mount, but this is actually a more powerful DX7. I think it's got more oscillators than the DX7 did. So you get all those classic DX7 tones, including like the lately basses on this. You also get a lot of just like those cool 80s pads and all those fun 80s things that you can possibly imagine playing with, all in a 1U rack mount. You really can't beat that. The DX7 is a huge keyboard. I don't know if you guys have seen it. A lot of people still play with it like 80s touring bands, and they're just huge and heavy and they break and all that jazz. This guy's still going strong. Story behind this, I got this in 2015, maybe 2016, at a yard sale. Somebody was selling this at a flea market yard sale type of area, and they didn't know what they had. They had said, how much this was this? They said 20 bucks, done, took it and ran with it. Mind you, I didn't know if it actually worked or not. I had to test it at home and it worked fine, thank God. So cool little flea market find. I'm really happy I got this. Moving down, we have the Korg digital reverb. This is the DRV-1000. This, as well as the next unit, are probably 2 of the newest units I've collected. I found this for really cheap on Reverb. It was like 60 bucks. Someone was selling it, and I like really cool lo-fi sound, so I wanted to try it out. Haven't used this on anything yet. I don't know what I'm going to use it on. It's very cheap sounding, and that's cool. That's exactly why I wanted it. So I'm hoping I can use this pretty soon. The next is the Yamaha SPX90. Now this guy is a 1U rack unit, very, very famous for this crazy phaser guitar sound that a lot of people use in like the 80s and the 90s. Sorry, just the 90s, I think. It's super cool. It's got a lot of effects. It also has like a dry wet, which is nice, but fortunately you're still going through the old 90s like hardware. So even though you have something drier than wet, it's still gonna have a little bit of a tonality to it. It's not 100% dry because you're still going through those circuits. So I like it. I haven't been able to really figure out how to use it that much yet. I'm looking to get like some crazy, I know like there's a 500 series chassis for this stuff, and what it is, it's a dry wet, basically makes anything a dry wet, and it runs through nice circuitry versus this. So I kind of want to try that out a little bit too. And then a lot of that'll open the doors for a lot of these things, including what I have over in the corner that I might show at the end is a Alesis 3630 compressor, which I got, of course, because I know Daft Punk used it. So that was a great $60 to spend. I got both of these. So yeah, 60 bucks for this. I think this was like 80 bucks on Reverb. They were both great deals. So yeah, I'm hoping to play with these more, and I can't wait. Let's move on now into the rack itself. The rack I bought from my mentor, Lenny Kaiser, who's getting rid of it. I was super stoked. I cannot remember the brand of the rack, but it's a German-made brand. You can only get it from Germany, or you have to ship them from Germany, and they're super hard to find. They're amazing, amazing, amazing pieces. I'll put a link down in the description to them. They also have like all these different additional like arms you can get to hold different types of sizes of different things, so they're fully expandable. When I got this, it only came with like 5 arms, and I bought another 4 arms so I could really have it grow with me in the system. But yeah, it's a great, great, great rack. And then over to the left of the rack here, we just have a, what is this, on stage stands? No, this is a Gator Frameworks. This guy right here is a cable holder. So it holds all these different cables. I have different sizes of modular cables. I have the little tiny patch cables too for the soft pop I use. And yeah, this guy has been a godsend just to have this all right here. I bought a ton of modular cables when I first got a modular. I got a big used pack of them. Probably didn't need to do that. But yeah, this guy has been really great. I really do like it. First synthesizer in this case. Actually, before we get into this guy right here is some GIK acoustic sound treatment. I'll leave a link right here to my acoustic sound treatment video where I do a little bit more of a studio tour. You guys can kind of learn from that as well. So the first synthesizer in the rack we're going to talk about is this guy, the Modular. This is all in a custom red Dark Star modular case. I don't know if they're still around, but back when Modular first came out, this is the only place that I could find that had really cool quality cases that weren't like from Europe or any place. And the guy who made this is just a homie. He was a friend of a friend through a group called The Originals with a Z, and they're part of this like big bass movement out of Sebastopol, really bass heavy kind of stuff. Womp womp womp, you know what I'm talking about. And Michael Mumbledy Squints actually recommended this to me. And yeah, I really like this brand of case. It's a great case. Unfortunately, I don't think they make them anymore, but it has a nice little red cover that goes on top of it too, making it super portable and super great for shows. Haven't done too much with it for shows, but I love it. I have a ton of modules. I'll probably go over what these modules all are in a different video, but for now, just know that I've got a lot of Qubit stuff. I've got a lot of Roland 500 series stuff in here too. The 512, the 521. That's not good. There's a ton of dust on this. I gotta clean these guys. But yeah, I love the Eurorack modular. I love everything this guy stands for. I love using it. I just gotta use it a little bit more, to be honest with you. So up next is one of my favorite synthesizers I own, the Grandmother. This guy's cool just because it's just really good for synthesis. I mean, the Minitaur was wonderful, but having the keyboard is great, having the sequencer is great, having the hold is great, having all the stuff on here is great. Moog just did a really good job with the synthesizer specifically. If you can't tell, I am a Moog fanboy. I also have a Moog sweatshirt on right now, just as Moog synthesizers, and it's like their instruction manual. But yeah, this synthesizer is really, really cool. I like how the different colors indicate the different modules, as if this was a true Eurorack module. I love all the different ports it has on the back. I love you can patch into the spring reverb. The spring reverb sounds amazing, by the way. Sometimes I just like to come over here and just hit it, and you can just hear the spring reverb work. Yeah, if you guys wanted to have some sound samples of these synthesizers, please leave a comment below. I'll make it a video showcasing each one individually. I love all my synths. They're like all little children to me. And so if I do one, I gotta do them all. So yeah, this guy, the Grandmother, amazing. We're gonna go down on here onto the Arturia Drumbrutes. Now I recently did the power in the back of these, and I think I forgot to plug in the Drumbrute and the Microbrute 2S, but these guys right here are outstanding. The Drumbrute itself has some really cool, interesting sounds to it that are all analog. They're all a lot of fun. And they're just cool. Also the way they've done the step layout and the filter and the swing and the randomness, all these different pieces on it make it a really fun guy to play. I have used this before on a couple of different tracks. I'm also looking to build a sample pack with it pretty soon, so be on the lookout for that. Up next is the Microbrute 2S. I'm sorry, Minibrute 2S, not the Microbrute, Minibrute. This guy is wonderful. Full sequencer on here that I love. It's also super easy to use because it has tons of different scales to use, and once you kind of get into the swing of knowing how to get to the scales under the hood, it is extremely easy. It's a lot of fun, and also it sounds rad. I almost said bitchin', and not really bitchin', but just pure rad. Everything sounds great. The metalizer, this guy right here makes things sound really wonderful. The filter sounds great. The brute factor, it sounds great too. It's just a really, really good synth. And these guys paired together, the Drumbrute and the Microbrute or Minibrute, have just a ton of fun. You can MIDI sync these guys all day and just kind of go to town with all this. Next right here, I just have an APC Key 25. This is all connected down a long cable into my computer, so that way I can loop synths and everything, get started right away. Makes it easy. Up next, we have the Deepmind 12. This is another great analog polysynth. This is my only analog polysynth I own, and it sounds wonderful. And it's also a great hybrid of digital and analog. A lot of people don't like Behringer, but the Deepmind 12 is an amazing product. And for analog polysynths, guys, this is a great value when it came out. I think it's discontinued now, but I love this. The only thing I'd probably do differently is I might trade this in for the rack mount version, because I know the rack mount version is a lot of fun, and I don't necessarily need the keyboard. The ARP on it's really cool though. I do like the ARP on it. I don't know if that comes with the rack mount version, but it sounds cool. It sounds great. It's a lot of fun. The mod wheel and the pitch wheels on it are also kind of light up, but they're kind of fun too, and they're just great to play. Also, the presets on it are wonderful, and it has some crazy cool distortion effects where you can almost make this sound like an electric guitar. Yeah, it's pretty freaking sweet. Okay, next is this little Panasonic tape player. I rarely use this, and it's not actually hooked up in anything. It just kind of sits here by itself. But I've been really getting into running stuff through tape and then resampling that through the tape. It just adds some crazy midtones to it that I really enjoy. Yeah, I mean, if you want to know more about this guy, watch this video up here. I'll put in where I go over how I sample vintage vocals with this. It's a whole journey. But it's a really cool guy, girl, whatever you want to call it. Panasonic, great job making this product, except you did it in the 70s, and Yeah, that's about it. Okay, here's the VSS-30. I just released a video on this. You can check out right here too. The VSS-30 is great because it's got built-in sampling sounds. So not only can you sample all the sounds that are built into it, like piano, harpsichord, jazz organ, all those things, which all sound like crazy and kind of like toy keyboards, which I love, but it also has ability to record your own samples into it. So I can go hoo, ha, he, all those different weird sounds, and then it'll scale to the keyboard, and then I can make chords out of that. It's way ahead of its time actually back then. So this guy is really cool. I highly recommend picking up one of these if you are just looking for like something a little small and cute you to have in your studio. If you're looking for a Christmas present from a family member who's got some money and they want to spend like $200, $300 on a cool little toy for you, get this guy. Okay, last but not least on the synthesizer rack is the MPC2000. Now, this guy I got as a trade. I traded a Mother 32 from Moog for this guy, which I think came up in that deal. It was minty fresh. It still has, it's got like a new modded blue screen here, which makes it a little easier to see. But it's just a lot of fun. I've only used this a couple times, mainly because the floppy disk is just something that I'm not good with, and the workflow is hard to understand. The MPC Live 2 that I have has been making me want to use this more, to be honest with you. And also, I just got it because of the tonality in it. The tone is so crunchy, it's so great, and it's something beautiful. And so I get why like all those like boom bap and like cook and soul videos and all those types of things, like why they swear by the older MPCs. It just makes sense. Also, these pads are outstanding. I might upgrade them one day because I like the different colors, but they just work great. Everything about this guy works wonders. Like the MPC2000 was another product ahead of its time. I guess you could say this row with the VSS-30 and the MPC2000 were both just ahead of their time. Okay, so now we're gonna get up here and I'm gonna show you how this all works, because this is kind of an interesting part of the video. I have all of these, obviously power is routed into the back, but I have all the audio cables for these either snaked. For the most part, they're all snaked. So you can see the snake right here at the very top of this. And this all goes up into this cabinet, all hidden behind here. And then ultimately comes down. Oh, what's up, Power Ranger Megazord? If you guys can see that in the corner. Might be a little tricky. But yeah, and Goofy Movie Akira. I like VHS and old toys too, as you guys can't tell. But anyways, this all comes down, packed behind here, and it goes into a patch bay back here. This is a Behringer Patchbay. I use the Behringers up here, the Samsons up front. Eventually I'll get all Samson, but the Behringer Patchbay works for what I needed to, and everything can be patched in from here. I also can run directly into the patch bay, like as you can see right here. And that is for when I go into the MPC Live 2. I can directly sample one of these synths directly into there, have a nice clean signal path. And ultimately, it just makes things easy, easy, easy. The first 8 outputs of this guy go into another patch bay, which ultimately go into my audio interface eventually through another patch bay. So there's like 3 patch bays I have for these guys. I'm not too worried about it because it's all balanced patch bays, and if they don't have balance out, like we're still only running 25 feet of cable. There's multiple connections. It's not a big deal. But besides the patch bay back here, which is going to be kind of hard to see, but you also have the Yamaha FB-01. This is just a little sound module. I got this in pair with the Yamaha TX81Z for like another 15 bucks. And this guy just has some cool classic sounds on it. If you want something that's just kind of, you have no parameters on it, you just want to have some cool sounds from the 80s, this guy will do it. It's a lot of fun. Highly recommend it. And below all that, we have the Klark Teknik BRD-320. This is a chorus module, so we can take an analog or a stereo in and add chorus to it on the output. I have barely used this guy. I thought it looked really cool. It was on sale. This is a newer product. It looks older, but it's actually a newer product. And yeah, I haven't really used it that much, but it's on my to-do list. So this, the DRV-1000 and the SPX90 are all on my to-do list to have a little more fun with. Okay, last but not least, the last like utilitarian thing is way down here in the bottom. We have the 2 MOTU Midi interfaces. So, oh man, this is a terrible angle for me. We have the 2 MOTU Midi interfaces. I like going 5-pin Midi because I used to go USB Midi, and then there was some hum that I couldn't get rid of. One of my synthesizers, I think it was one of the Arturias, just by USB, just had a hum in it. And I don't know if it was from the hub or from the Mac Pro I was using. I'm not sure, but it was super annoying. And ever since then, I'm just going 5-pin. So these guys all go 5-pin, and they all have long USBs out, which go into USB hub in my computer. So yeah, it makes everything super easy, super wicked. I really do like it. It was a lot of work when I first moved in here to build this in here, but it's so cool. I just like looking at this. Like, look, Like, I'm proud of that, you know? Sure, I spent a lot of money and wasted a lot of money on some of this stuff, and this is only half of it. I bought a ton of stuff and sold a ton of stuff, including like the landscape module, like I mentioned those 2 synths earlier, a ton of stuff, but I'm super proud of this. Like, it just looks good and I like being able to play with it. One of my students actually is gonna come over soon and play around with it, learn modular on there, so I'm super excited about that too. But yeah, that brings me to the final 2 synthesizers, and these 2 are actually my 2 favorites. They unfortunately just don't fit on the rack. I'm gonna move Power Ranger over here. Thanks again to my friend Abe for getting this for me from Frank & Sons down in Southern California. Super cool. Okay, so here's the big unveiling. Oh yeah, sorry, pulled this up for no reason. Over here we have one of those other Gator frameworks cable holders, just to hold my 1/4 inch patch cables. So you got 1/8 inch over there for modular, and then 1/4 inch over here, all balanced just to make life a lot easier, as well as some guitar pedal cases. And there's usually actually more here. I just have been using a lot in the studio right now. Anyways, back to the unveiling. This is the Arp Odyssey. Now, what makes this guy so cool is that this is old. This is from the 60s or 70s. I think it's the 70s. It's got some crazy sounds that almost sound like R2-D2. It's wicked. It needs to be tuned at all times, but it is so much fun to use. I think this is the Mark 1 or Mark 2. It's one of the original ones. I know it's not the 3. You can tell by the pitch wheels. This one's got the wheel for pitch bend, which I've never seen before, but that's super cool. This guy is so neat. And so funny story about this. I bought it from Guitar Center. I was like, okay, I know Guitar Center, I think, has a 30-day return policy on used stuff because it was obviously used because it's so old. I took it to a guy I found online who lives in like the Oakland, Berkeley, Cross Point area. And he actually knows all about these old synthesizers. I walked in, he was figuring out a Dave Smith Prophet, like an old one, trying to rebuild it for somebody. And I showed him this and I was like, hey, I bought this. I have a 30-day return window on it. I just want to make sure it all works. Like, is there something that I should be looking out for? Is there something broken here you can't fix? What does it look like? So he took it out. He actually was able to take leaves out of it, which is pretty gnarly. Literally leaves came out of the back of this thing because someone must have had it in their shed or something forever and didn't know what they had. But he said it all worked fine. He cleaned it up for me, tuned it up great, works amazing. He put a new high output jack on the back because the older one was broken. I love that guy so much. He's so cool. Since then, I've actually taken it back to him because when I was moving, I put it on my chair, which was the stupidest thing in the world, and my cat jumped on it and dropped it, and the second oscillator stopped making noise. So I took it back to him. He fixed it because he's a genius, and now it works fine, and I still have the Arp Odyssey in my possession, and I've used this on one track. It's coming out on the new Chelsey Noise album called Prove It, and that's it. I should probably use it on a lot more, but oh man, it's so cool. And it just looks so nice with the black and gold, or black and like cream, I don't know, but it's got a lot of cool stuff. I'll do another video on this soon as well. Last but not least in the studio, actually real quick, I can just show you this guy, just so you can see the patch bay that they all run into, as well as the Arp 3630. Got a bunch of guitar pedals down there and stuff too, don't mind that. But yeah, the Alesis 3630 is a really cool compressor with sidechain in it. But yeah, everything eventually runs into that patch bay. But the last thing I want to show here is the Moog Voyager. This guy is rad. I bought this as like my first, I want to say I bought this after the JP8080. I wanted an analog synthesizer that I could grow with, that could grow with me. And this guy is the one. I mean, it's beautiful. I got the electric blue version. It's gorgeous. I'm using it on the Chelsey Noise album coming out. I've used it on a couple other tracks too. It is just beautiful. The touchpad you've got here too is absolutely amazing. The coloring on this is gorgeous. It's just perfect. It's like a perfect monophonic synth that you couldn't ask for more. Unfortunately, it's huge, and that's one thing I've come into issues with it. It was pristine condition until I got this little nick on it, which I was a little upset about. But it works well. It sounds amazing. It sounds so beautiful. Running like an ARP MIDI sequence into this sounds amazing. This guy is just super cool, super gorgeous, and super fun. But yeah, that's basically all of the synth modules and the hardware modules. So I hope you guys like this video. Please give it a like if you learned something. Please comment if you've got any questions, or if you just want to talk about it. I love all these pieces of gear. Honorable mention that I didn't mention because I use this in a lot of videos is, of course, the Akai MPC Live 2. This usually is over there too, but I just didn't run out of room for it today. It's a beast. It's so cool. I love it. Highly recommend it. Can't get enough of it. But yeah, like I said, like, comment, subscribe if you like my vibe. I'm trying to grow my fan base as much as I can. But yeah, this guy's super cool. So hope you learned something. Leave a comment below. Take care, everybody.